Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Monday night. Hope everybody's having a good evening so far. Derrick Henry being shopped. That was the news that came out today from Mike Silver of Bally Sports, among a couple of other star players that the NFL is starting to keep in mind. I think when it comes to a lot of these transactions, it's important to preface all of this by saying this is the time of year when discussions like this are had, and you see a lot of conversation around big names, a lot of things that ultimately don't end up happening, but at least are being discussed. It's newsworthy and worth examining because Derrick Henry is probably the best trade bait that they have at this point. We'll talk about the moves that they made in addition to Derrick, or what's being considered around Derrick at this point, including releasing Bud Dupree today. And Robert Walsh will tell us what we missed from the weekend in sports in our end of show topic. Before we get started, need you guys to share this show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you are on Facebook Live, you can share not a public. That is in the bottom left for you to do. If you are on YouTube or on Twitch like Stephen King or SCP, please like the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you've done so already, make sure you tell a friend, and we will make sure that more of our Titans fans come into tonight's discussion, because I'm sure many of you have thoughts on the report around trading Derrick Henry. First Impressions TV says Derrick is not going anywhere. Rand is doing his due diligence. Well, I think we're going to work through the details of that, and we can debate what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. But here's the thing. Like, you can't say anything with any kind of certainty right now. So the idea that you would definitively declare that Derrick Henry is not going anywhere speaks more to hoping than actual fact at this point. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Monday night from the Superbook Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by our friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com, your dream address without the stress. They'll get you the intel edge you need to succeed. GaryAshton.com is where you go. Superbook Sports, download the app today and wager on all your favorite major sports. Conference tournaments on the horizon in college basketball. Superbook will match your first bet up to $1,000, win or lose. And TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMav Fitness to get your workout goals achieved. I've put together a new plan with Worth and their coaching staff. On my next goal, you can do the same with your first workout free at TrueMavFitness.com. So, Derrick Henry is being shopped. Now, it's not the first time that Derrick Henry's been on the trading block. It's not the first time they've listened to offers on Derrick Henry. For those of you who don't remember the first time that this did happen, it was in 2018 when the Titans weren't crazy about the Derrick Henry experience, when Derrick Henry was losing snaps to David Fluellen. And I think that was Dion Lewis's first year on the roster in 18, might have been 19. I can't remember who the other running back was. 18 was not a DeMarco Murray season, but still, Derrick Henry was not the primary back, and the Titans were interested in potentially moving him. They wanted a second-round pick. It didn't happen. And the ultimate, the thing that ultimately ended up working in their favor is they figured out how best to use Derrick Henry. Things fell into line, and they made the most successful run that they've had in recent memory, which is to the 2019, I guess technically 2020 AFC Championship game. Now, a lot of things have changed since then. Derrick Henry's on a second contract. The football team around him is largely trash. And looking at Derrick's circumstance, $16 million cap hit moving into 2023, a viable market for him. The idea that you would be selling high on an asset in Derrick makes a lot of sense. But, there's obviously an emotional attachment to Derrick Henry that Titans fans have. And if they move him, they're going to have a real hard time justifying to fans as to why they did it, unless the results are immediate. And obviously they won't be playing football for quite some time. So the immediate results on trading Derrick Henry in March theoretically would take some time. You would have plenty of people who I would imagine would cancel their season tickets. There would be a harsh immediate reaction to moving on from a fan favorite. But I want to phrase the question or pose the question to you this way. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. Fair or foul? The Titans listening to trade offers for Derrick Henry at this point. We will talk about it together and discuss at great length right after I remind you that the Two Rivers Ford take is presented by Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford is where you go for 2023 model year Fords. Nobody will have a better car buying experience than Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com, where your 2023 quality American-made Ford vehicles are available for you to test drive right now. So, fair or foul, the Titans listening to offers on Derrick Henry, having him on the block. Trade Henry and Simmons, says Jimmy Chestnut. Well, that's a different kind of extreme. Titans want a first for Henry, says Nuclear. Well, they're not going to get it. That's not realistic, and I don't think that they would be asking for it. Derrick Henry is not worth a first-round pick at this stage in his career with the kind of money that's associated with him. Now, Derrick, I think, is still capable of being a Hall of Fame player, even if he doesn't finish his career here. Now, if Derrick Henry goes to the Hall of Fame and it's because he has a successful second stint somewhere else, is that going to hurt you? For sure. You're going to hate that. It's going to make you miserable, especially if he gets a ring out of wherever, if in a hypothetical where he did end up getting traded. If you move him and he goes to a place that makes him more competitive than he would be right away here in Tennessee, then yeah, that's going to make you feel a little bit dirty. Nardo says foul on Derrick Henry. Will Mayberry says the Titans have been trading good players since 2002. He is still a good player, right? Derrick Henry. No, it's got nothing to do with Derrick Henry not still being capable of production. It's just the idea of, do you want to sell high on Derrick Henry and try and move him while you can, or ride this thing out and, operate under the assumption that Derrick Henry's got one high-level season left in him and that the things you would get back for Derrick Henry aren't worth moving him. Now, I think those are different conversations that fans have to have amongst themselves. Foul, says Jason Martinez. Henry is good for business. Henry is good for immediate business. There is no disputing. Derrick Henry drives ticket sales. Derrick Henry drives jersey sales. Derrick Henry impacts concessions, because what other thing are you going to Nissan Stadium to watch? Instead of repeating all the things in the video that I'm going to play for you right now, I'll just go ahead and play the video for you, because Derrick Henry, there's a cost-benefit analysis associated with it, but ultimately it might be their best card to play. I'll explain what I mean by that in just a second, right after I remind you that the primetime show is presented by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com, your dream address without the stress, is what you will get if you trust the Intel edge that you need to succeed with GaryAshton.com. The Intel helps you sell your home without any showings or staging, helps you find your next home while you sell your current one in this red-hot Nashville real estate market, helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity right now. GaryAshton.com will get you the intel you need to succeed. Trust the team that your favorite teams trust. Go to GaryAshton.com. So fair or foul, trading Derrick Henry at this point, or listening to offers on Derrick Henry. They have not committed to any kind of a trade at this point, merely listening to offers. Karen O'Keefe says fair to listen, foul to trade. For Chris Flynn, it's fair. Head says fair. Heart says foul, and that's the kind of, internal conflict that I'm sure many Titans fans will experience. Fair, no doubt. Business is a part of it. Harold Rice says he's not going anywhere. He may not, Harold. You have no idea. But here's the thing. If you're talking about different ways that the Titans can make themselves more competitive over the long term, with a larger remodel than a lot of us might have anticipated or foreseen initially, Derrick Henry is probably their best card to play. They're doing with Derrick Henry. So this is what we've I think what everybody's been trying to prepare the fan base for, because now you're talking about a different kind of Band-Aid that you're about to rip off if you actually move this dude. It's not that it's inevitable. It's not that there's a for sure, like this is a sign that this is going to happen. It's just something that lets you know they're very much considering this. And they should be, by the way. That should come as no surprise to Titans fans. None whatsoever. It's the life cycle that a lot of teams go through. And there's going to be a degree of coping that comes along with him because he's legitimately the kind of player that you seek to go to games to watch. What else is getting you to Nissan Stadium right now beyond Derrick Henry? Like if I'm a football fan, because the Titans are in a weird market, right, where so many people are transplants come in with other NFL teams and then they latch on to the local ones because they make a run. The Preds go to the Stanley Cup. They keep a couple extra people. After that, the rest of it turns into a bit of a fad, right? But you had that one season where you got a couple of extra people to really appreciate what it was that they were doing at Bridgestone that season. 19 was that for the Titans, and Derrick Henry was the focal point. Derrick Henry is a damn near unprecedented player in the league. He's an NFL record-setting player at his position and is, very capable of continuing to build a Hall of Fame resume if he so chooses. And also, he's the best trade bait that they probably have right now that would do them the least amount of damage. Moving Jeff is a much different discussion. Moving Derrick, is that not their best card to play? Of all the different things, I don't necessarily think that it's moving Tannehill. So that is from the radio show earlier today. Derrick Henry is the best possible option of the three of those options, right? Jeffrey Simmons, moving Jeffrey Simmons and trying to get Chicago's first overall pick. Theoretically, you could do that. Chicago is certainly going to be in the interior defensive line market. With what's just happened with Jalen Carter, the Georgia player, that may have affected how they feel about drafting him in particular, or, where they would be most comfortable keeping their assets. If the Titans were sold on a quarterback and wanted to trade Jeff Simmons as a part of a package to get up to number 1 overall, I think that's totally fair. I think that hurts you more competitive-wise, though, than moving Derrick Henry. Wouldn't you agree? If Derrick Henry can get you a 3rd-round pick this coming draft, or a 4th-round pick in this coming draft, and a conditional 3rd, let's say a 4th-round pick in 2024 and a conditional 3rd in 25, that's like best case scenario for a running back at 29 with a contract like Derrick's that would probably want an extension if he was traded. So a 4th and a conditional 3rd to replace Derrick Henry, who was on the roster last year, who can still play good football and wasn't able to elevate them above, where it is that they flatlined last year en route to losing 7 straight games. Derrick Henry is still a good player. Derrick Henry was not good enough to help you. Kenneth Davidson said, seriously, only a 3rd and a 4th? No way. Well, you're not going to get, okay, so here's the McCaffrey deal. Let me read you the trade details on what it was that San Francisco gave up for Christian McCaffrey, because it was a lot more than what I've just listed for Derrick Henry. The difference is, 1, San Francisco overpaid. 2, Christian McCaffrey is viewed as a better asset than Derrick Henry because you can theoretically you can't theoretically do more. You can do more with Christian McCaffrey than you can with Derrick Henry. The biggest difference between those two has been in availability, and that matters, right? So for the 49ers, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round picks this year, plus a 2024 5th round pick, that's what San Francisco gave to Carolina to get Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey going to San Francisco is something that, maybe they were right to overpay for because that is way too much for a running back on a 2nd contract when you are able to manufacture a running game the way that San Francisco is. Now, San Francisco can deploy that dude in 1,000 different ways, and it's a pretty unique circumstance there. It doesn't justify the deal. I still think it's way too much. But to look at the circumstance, for Derrick Henry is somebody who's not going to be viewed as a passing game asset, even though he's coming off career highs in receiving. Derrick Henry is somebody who's going to need a better situation than most because of what I've just said. He wasn't a piece that was good enough to elevate them beyond all their problems, and they had a ton of problems. But you can't trade for Derrick Henry and not have a more productive offensive line situation in front of him. If you could get a third rounder this year, I think that's probably a stretch, but a fourth and a conditional third is the thing that makes the most sense. Now, there's not a ton of teams that Derrick Henry makes sense for. I think Atlanta would probably be most willing to do that deal. They've got over $60 million in cap space. They've got a rookie quarterback situation. If Derrick Henry was to go and reunite with Arthur Smith, it would be best for both of those two individuals. And if the Titans could, kind of get Atlanta back a little bit for how dirty they got done on the Julio Jones deal and get Derrick Henry off the books, that would make you feel a little better about how badly the Julio deal hurt you in retrospect, both financially and from a salary cap perspective. We'll see what ends up happening. I think that it is, there's no certainty that Derrick Henry is on the roster in 2023. I think it's slightly more likely than not that Derrick Henry's still here, because you have to have a team that comes up with a trade package that you feel is commensurate with their value. And I don't know if teams are going to look at Derrick Henry's circumstance and be like, well, yeah, I'm not going to overpay if this is an asset that you're trying to move for a variety of different reasons. Henry to Buffalo is what would I do? Oh, I'd move him. I would move him yesterday. I would trade Derrick yesterday. If you can get any package that involves a day 2 pick this year, depending on the team, right? A higher day 2 pick this year. If it's at the top of the 4th round and a conditional third, I'd move Derrick yesterday. I've seen all I need to see as far as which player is harder to replace. If you'd asked me about AJ Brown, I would have said differently. AJ Brown is a more important piece for the Titans, or a more important piece in today's NFL than Derrick Henry is. Deontay Foreman was not easily able to replace Derrick Henry production in 2021, but was able to put together a circumstance where you could totally make the case for not needing a $16 million running back on your books. Mr. Jones says Buck hates Derrick because he proved him wrong. No, in fact, you guys misunderstand. I've got a lot of love for that dude. Okay. Derrick Henry, I was loud wrong about Derrick Henry in a second contract, and I'm totally fine with eating that, because I will say to you, nothing has made my job more enjoyable covering the Titans than Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's an incredible player. I've gotten to watch him make history. That's been great. That's been so cool. I've gotten to experience on a week in, week out basis that dude's entire career. And yeah, so what if I was wrong about the contract? That's a terrible, it's a terrible assessment by me, but I don't think anybody knew how good Derrick Henry was going to be. And if I was going to have to be wrong about anything, and it's not the last time that I'll be wrong about something, but if I'm going to be wrong about anything, my God, I got to witness Derrick Henry become only the 8th player in NFL history to eclipse 2,000 yards. I've seen Derrick Henry help them win playoff games, put guys in body bags en route to 4 touchdown, north of 250-yard games. I've seen Derrick do so many cool things across his career here that I'm incredibly grateful for the time that I've gotten to spend covering Derrick Henry. And that's not even to ignore the person that Derrick is. I like Derrick personally. That dude. So when this is a small part of it, because I've worked with Derrick across his entire career, and I know him to be a genuine human being. But my dad passed away in the middle of the 2019 season. And it was while we were in Oakland for a game. I found out in a horrific way, because my dad and his entire family lives overseas in Cairo, Egypt. And I found out via Facebook message a day later from my aunt who lives in Cairo, right? Like, it was a very, very not pleasant experience for obvious reasons when you lose a family member like that. Okay, whatever. Not to turn this into a sob story. But I remember coming home after that game And it was either that week or the following week that Derrick did his pay away the layaway event at a what are they called? Not a convenience store, but a shopping like a shopping mall in Hundred Oaks. Derrick used to do a pay away the layaway event around the holidays, and I went because if the guys do community stuff, you want to make sure that you're it means something to them for you to show up and for you to give them a little bit of coverage. And obviously they're doing great work, so you want to make sure that you're a part of that. So I just having the opportunity to talk to Derrick a little more normally, not in a locker room when we're sticking microphones and cameras in front of his face, but like just off to the side talking to Derrick, right? And Derrick Henry, unprompted, without any PR people there, was asking me about, how I was doing and knew about the situation with my dad and all these different things in ways that he had not been prepped for. He just, happened to see something on the internet, knew that I was going to be there. We've obviously been around each other for the better part of 7 years at this point. So it was a very, very thoughtful moment and something that I've always appreciated about Derrick because, it was just it was a bit of a jarring time for me. And you don't expect those people to, I don't know. It was just a very, very human interaction. So long story short, I have nothing against Derrick Henry. I have very much enjoyed Derrick Henry. I respect the holy hell out of that man. I really do. But when it comes to the business of football, the thing that makes the most sense is to sell high on an asset before the fall comes, whenever that ends up being. Derrick could play 5 more years in the NFL at a high level. Derrick could go on to be a Hall of Fame player. In fact, he's very, very much on that trajectory. And Derrick Henry also, as your best trade asset, makes the most sense to try and move. Doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't mean that it's that real. But with only 6 draft picks and about $21 million in cap space now, but still not enough for all the needs that you have. I think that Derrick Henry makes the most sense. And that's not an emotional response. That's just the thing logically when you look at the 3 options that they have available. Derrick's not a quarterback, even if he is as important to that quarterback success as the quarterback himself. To have uncertainty at running back versus quarterback is a much less significant situation, right? So the quarterback versus Derrick Henry, moving on from the quarterback versus Derrick Henry makes less sense because depending on what the trade capital looks like. If the Jets get desperate and make you a God tier offer for Ryan Tannehill, you take that and you run, right? A quick reminder before I ramble too much. Primetime is presented by Superbook Sports. Download the Superbook app today, and they'll match your first bet up to $1,000, win or lose. They are the best sports book out there, and they will always give you the best odds, boosts, and promo bets to make sure that you enjoy the gambling experience. They have a specific tab for Tennessee teams in the app, the Tennessee Teams tab. In fact, you can get great odds, boosts, and promo bets on the Grizzlies, the Vols as we get closer to conference tournament play, and of course, the big dance itself. Superbook.com is where you go for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. Kenneth Davidson says, so why are they giving up on 23? In 19, they were supposed to go to the AFC Championship game. I did call it once they made the playoffs, but I wasn't sure they would beat the Chiefs. You make the playoffs, and who knows what's happened. I don't think 2023 is. If they're cutting Bud, they've cut Taylor, Bud, Woods, Bullock, Cunningham. Right, all of those moves made the most sense, but it's not enough. They need to do more. They need to do more as a part of this remodel to keep this football team competitive long term. Derrick and Tannehill are the 2 next dominoes that you could do something substantial enough to make the move worthwhile. Now, what you end up doing with Derrick, if that's a restructure to keep him under contract beyond this season, that's a possibility. If it's listening to offers to see how good the compensation can get and moving him ultimately, that's an option that they should absolutely consider. If it's a situation where they think that they are in love with CJ Stroud or Bryce Young and they want to trade Jeff Simmons to try and get up to the number 1 overall pick, I would be 100% about that, because if it's the quarterback is the most important even as Jeff is an incredibly valuable asset to this football team. If you're sold on your vision around that future, then don't hesitate, make the move. And, if it ends up being the correct decision, great. If not, you're going to get buried for it. Quarterbacks get people fired all the time. And this is a very complicated offseason that Rand Carthon, the new GM, has to navigate. Let's see. Ricky W says, if you like Vrabel propaganda, Buck is your guy. Well, I wonder how Mike would feel about trading Derrick Henry, because at every turn, Mike has been super committed to everything Derrick. So, this would be anti-Vrabel propaganda. In fact, this would theoretically work against what Mike Vrabel has focused on his entire tenure. Now, Derrick has been a part of the Mike Vrabel experience every year, right? And there's no Mike Vrabel at this point as the Titans coach without Derrick Henry. We haven't seen how that looks. So I don't know necessarily how Mike would react to that being broached. But, he's clearly on board with it if he's the idea of listening to offers. You don't need to – you've just heard the reporting. They're listening to offers on Derrick Henry. That doesn't go without not telling Mike Vrabel. Like, that shit's not going to slip out there without Mike knowing. Mike's aware that they're listening to offers on Derrick Henry. If they get a good enough offer to move Derrick Henry and Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon come to an agreement on it, then they're going to move Derrick Henry. And if not, they don't move Derrick Henry. Like, it's just the idea that they're listening. And they should be. Every option should be on the table, whether that's Tannehill being moved on from, trading Jeff, extending Jeff, trading Derrick, keeping Derrick. All options should be on the table for a team in this particular situation. It's the only thing that makes sense. Why do they need to do more? Wouldn't that make us less competitive? No. Here's the thing, guys. Like, you have no idea what this football team is going to be. But what I have seen you do already is replace Derrick Henry's production with a player who is not Derrick Henry. I've seen you do it in 21. So if you can get something similar, not be as married to one particular player, if you get your future quarterback out of it, great. If you get Bijan Robinson out of it and an extra draft pick that you can use to replenish the offensive line, the depth, you now need a pass rusher. You're probably going to need more picks at some point. I think this is very real because cutting Bud Dupree, Rashad Weaver is not a starting player. He had to be last year out of necessity, but he wasn't good enough. You guys saw that. So it's not, you're talking about needs on the offensive line, uncertainty at quarterback. You're going to need to think of life after Derrick Henry at some point. Why not make it the last year that he's under contract? You need depth on the defensive line. Danico Autry's in the last year of his deal. Bud Dupree just got cut. You need a starting outside linebacker to run across from Harold. You need offensive line help all over the place. And you can patchwork a little bit of it together this year, but you've got to figure out your left tackle situation ASAP. The Titans need picks and money. They don't have either. Trading Derrick Henry would alleviate at least a substantial part of those concerns. But it's just an option that needs to be discussed and is being discussed by the organization right now. Ricky says, hey, Buck, would Derrick make the Bengals and Dolphins immediate Super Bowl favorites or not? If you say no, you're low IQ or just a sellout. I don't think the Bengals, their offensive line is shit. So I don't think the Bengals is an option there. The Dolphins are really bad too, offensive line wise. Now, I think that they, immediate Super Bowl favorites. No, I don't think there's a running back out there that would shift the market for immediate Super Bowl favorites. I think it would certainly help them as they're jockeying for position in the AFC. But as long as the Bengals and Dolphins continue to trot out, their offensive line, guys, is not much better than the Titans is, and that's Derrick's biggest problem here. He doesn't have help. Derrick Henry at this stage of his career needs a little bit more help than he used to. That's okay. But to trade him to Miami or Cincinnati, where the offensive line situations are, really not that much better. They're slightly better, but not much better. I don't think that that's a move for those two teams that makes sense. Now, Buffalo, I think is fascinating. I think that Miami would be an interesting experiment because they had one of the worst rushing attacks in the league last year, but I think that's as much a product of the offensive line. Now, they were working with like Jeff Wilson, who they traded with the 49ers to try and cobble together some semblance of what Mike McDaniel used to run in San Fran. But immediate Super Bowl favorites, it would certainly make them contenders, but not favorites by any stretch of the imagination. They also have Tua is not. I mean, what is the quarterback situation in Miami right now? Tua is very, very much up in the air. I think that Alex Alejandro says listening to offers or shopping him. Now, those are two different things, right? Actively shopping Derrick versus listening to offers are two different things. I think they are being more proactive in at least eliciting offers for Derrick Henry and messaging that, yeah, we're open to hearing offers on him. So it's more passive aggressive on the Derrick Henry trade discussions right now. But it only takes one offer to turn that from passive aggressive to aggressive aggressive. So, I don't think it's necessarily low IQ to say that Derrick doesn't make those teams immediate Super Bowl favorites. There's a difference between Super Bowl contenders and Super Bowl favorites. I don't think Derrick Henry makes anybody a Super Bowl favorite right now. Now, I think Atlanta is the team that makes the most sense. I would be surprised if you saw Derrick Henry traded within the AFC. But again, if the offer is right, then you make the move at this point. What are they asking for, or what is this trade for? What is his for a trade? Henry says Juan 1 on YouTube. Well, what should they ask for? They should ask for, they should probably start the bidding with a second round pick. And when they don't get that, they should be open to, a third with a conditional fourth, or a fourth with a conditional third over the course of the next two drafts, assuming that somebody's willing to take that whole contract. Because it's basically like the franchise tag is basically what people would be paying Derrick Henry, just about $10 million. They wouldn't have to eat the full 16 mil. That's only if he stays on the Titans roster. So we'll see how these things go. Henry to New England is my guess if he's traded. I don't think New England's got it like that right now. Draft capital or financially. New England's in a bit of cap hell themselves because they did shit like pay Jonnu Smith $50 million guaranteed, which in retrospect looks awful. So that is the circumstance around Derrick Henry for the time being, and we will keep you informed on those options as more news materializes. Nate Blank says, I'm hearing Philly. You trying to trigger some people? Because people would shit the bed if Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown were reunited in Philadelphia. Would be funny to watch, though. I think people would be unhappy with that. All right, so let's do In Case You Missed It with producer Robert. We've got one story in the NFL that has to do with the left tackle market and how that's just changed. I'll remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. Their workouts are never recycled or repeated, and they will make sure that you have the resources you need to succeed, to improve your fitness goals. TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch will provide you with the resources, with the options. The group classes are fantastic. The personal training is even better. And of course, if you just want to work out on your time, they have their open gym. Go to TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free and to explore all their great membership options. So, looking at the news around the NFL that we have missed this week, producer Robert will now join us and tell us what's going on with the left tackle market in the NFL at this stage.
Yeah, let's take a step back and talking about our franchise pillars just being traded away and everything crumbling around us. Let's look at something that's leaving somebody else in Orlando Brown. He wants too much money, and the Chiefs are like, we have too much money tied up, and everybody else, we don't have enough to go for you. So he is going to hit the free agent market. The Chiefs are still going to try to negotiate with him and get a deal, but that means the number one tackle is actually hitting the market and not getting franchise tag. So what does that mean for the Titans? Would you, in this cap casualty kind of era for them where they don't have a lot of money to spend, make Orlando Brown the highest paid tackle? What do you say, Buck?
I personally would not, especially if I'm the Titans. That's not a move that they can afford to be making right now. They need to find a more cost-effective solution. Orlando Brown does not grade out well as a pass protector, which is something that the Titans need more than anything on the offensive line right now. They need somebody they can trust on whomever's blind side, whether that's Tannehill or another quarterback in the future. I don't think he's worth market resetting money. And if the Chiefs are letting him walk, they don't either. Now, they have the $500 million quarterback that can wipe away a lot of those concerns. But I think Orlando Brown is going to look a lot worse without Patrick Mahomes than he did with him.
I agree. It's too much money. It's too much money for a guy that, remember his combine? We just had the combine this last weekend. He had a terrible combine. That's the whole reason he fell to 3. He moved from right tackle to left tackle. He was more suited for right tackle, but he wanted to play left tackle. He said for his dad, but that's a lot of money difference from the right side to the left side.
Yeah.
Mike Garafolo talked about this today and where he could end up and how much money people are going to spend on him.
Take 2, operator error, didn't plug in the mic. Very technical reason why you couldn't hear me before the break. Okay, the Chiefs will not use the franchise tag on left tackle Orlando Brown. Kind of a surprise here. A lot of folks thought maybe that would be at least a placeholder for these sides to work out a deal, but the Chiefs telling Brown and his agents today the number's just too high. Now, it would have been around $20 million. It would have been a 120% increase from last year when he got the first tag at 16 and change. They offered him a deal somewhere around 18 on average last year to try to get it done. Didn't get it done. They were frustrated that they weren't able to come to an agreement. So barring some kind of extension from the Chiefs to Orlando Brown in the next week, which seems unlikely right now given that they value him below that second tag, the Pro Bowl, Super Bowl winning left tackle is headed toward free agency, and I expect him to have a number of suitors. Look, he's not like that elite left tackle out there, but he's a guy who just plays winning football, played on the right side in Baltimore, proved he could move to the left side in Kansas City. I expect multiple suitors for Orlando Brown in free agency next week.
Yeah.
They're talking about $20 million a year.
It's a lot.
It's a lot for, as he was describing, not an elite left tackle. He's good, and these guys are rarely available in free agency, but you got to wonder where you're going to check off on your grocery list first. And it looks like that's beneath the eggs. I'm out on Orlando Brown.
Well, and eggs are expensive as hell right now, and so does Orlando Brown apparently. So, okay, in case you missed it, very good producer Robert. Appreciate your contributions as always. Get out of here. So yeah, I think that the left tackle market is going to be fascinating. It's not a good offensive line market right now. We know this. We know this to be so. We also know that the Titans will have options with the 11th overall selection at this point. And with the way that Paris Johnson Jr., for example, tested out, the concerns around Skoronski as far as length at the left tackle is concerned, why he's being discussed as potentially primarily a guard at that position. I think that you're going to see a lot of discussions moving forward about the Titans and offensive line. And the thing that I come back to the most is that it's just not worth it for them to get into the veteran market if they have the option, if they have the ability to find a 8 to 10 year solution on the left side, the way that Lawan was, at least for a period of time. All right. It's going to do it for us tonight on the primetime show. Leo says of Robert, that dude looks like he was clipping toenails before he was put on camera. It's entirely possible. We're just, anytime we put Robert on camera, we're just happy that he has clothes on. So little victories as far as that is concerned. A victory to be able to get through another episode of the Primetime Show with you guys. Thank you as always for spending time. Tomorrow on the radio show, Trevor Sikkema of Pro Football Focus will join us. We'll talk a lot about combine stuff that we learned, as well as keeping you updated with the latest rumors on the Titans. And we'll have a great time doing that from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. It's my last radio show for the rest of the week because I'm going on a ski trip. I'm taking a little vacation before free agency starts. Of course, Derrick Henry will get traded while I'm gone. So, you guys will, I'm sure, have plenty to talk about with whomever is filling in for me. A reminder that there will be no install this week with Greg Cosell and no 615 sessions because, like I said, I will be on vacation. Tomorrow will be my last day on radio, and there will be no primetime shows on Wednesday and Thursday night this week. But enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will talk to you tomorrow on the radio show, if not one more time for the week on primetime. See you guys.
Are you surprised to hear that?
Certainly not. The first year we took it to the limit. And I was in Miami with my new beach house. Well, it was a couple minutes from the beach.
It's been 20 years since then. We haven't been too strong in the last few years.
Oh, we've been strong. We're just playing by the rules. You can't have a newcomer come in and steal a show.